Hi, Rose. How are you?
How are you?
Sorry for the fright. How are you today?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Oh, magnificently magnificent. It's great to see you here on the Healing Through Love show, and welcome to our show this week. Welcome to the Healing Through Love show. We are a social enterprise whose vision is to shift awareness on domestic and family violence within the community and support survivors. Our mission is to provide family and domestic violence survivors with a soft place to land by offering advice and services available to them and their families.
Yes, and as well as the Healing Through Love show, we hold annual Pancreas Days for survivors in South Australia. And this is where local businesses come together and provide their resources and their time for the day for free. And they do that so that we can help and they can help survivors have a really great day of indulgence and healing. And each week on the Healing Through Love show, we interview experts and survivors who share their personal stories and offer advice to those who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey.
It's so true. So for the next half an hour, we've got a very special guest. But what's going to happen is Rose is going to go and produce the show. So if you're listening today and you want to run your own podcast, Rose is the person to speak to. She runs a program. She teaches people how to put their podcast and live broadcasts together. And she's also an expert authority in and around online management of events. So I'm glad to call, and I'm very proud to call Rose a very close friend. And it's great doing business with you, Rose. So Rose is going to pop away, but she's going to come back at the end as I introduce our amazing guest today. Oh, you're in for an absolute treat. Today we have Joanna Walden. Joanna is a visionary transformation specialist, a multidimensional channeler, a speaker, an author of The Inside Hustle, a mystical Misfit travels adventure into the unknown. Oh, it sounds delicious, doesn't it? Joanna spent 20 years working in a high-flying advertising career in New York, London, and Melbourne, while secretly exploring her passion for the unseen world of energy, spirit, and consciousness, inspired by a series of mystical experiences, which I'm hoping she's going to share with us today. In her teenage years, Joanna explored everything from transcendental meditation to quantum physics on a global quest to find her purpose and ultimately her true self. Through a process of self-realisation, currently residing in her hometown of Auckland. Oh, I love New Zealand. Auckland's one of my favourite places. Bay of Islands, best place to visit. Joanne quit her own corporate lifestyle to start her transformational consulting business and begin to share her knowledge. And she now runs, it's a healing modality. And so I'd just love to know more. Hi, Joanna. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So can you share a little bit more about these mystical experiences that helped you point the direction of your new existence?
Yeah, of course. I came into this life with a mother who was kind of spiritual. She was very open-minded, into a lot of exploration, where conversely my dad, business guy, very straight up and down. So they used to butt heads a little bit because one was kind of off planet and the other one was very, very grounded on the planet. But, it gave for an excellent combo, I would say. But I grew up in an environment where my mum was into all sorts of different stuff, whether it was, healthy eating and tofu back in the 80s, or whether it was exploring spiritual modalities or healing modalities. So, it was sort of quite normal for me. But I started to have experiences when I was in my teenage years. I would have sort of like a vision of something happening when I was being a naughty teenager. And then I would sort of say, hold on, we've got to change the plan. And then I would realize that it saved us from getting into trouble. So quite handy when you're a teenager. But I was noticing these things. I would see things in my mind's eye. And then that would be what I would see later on when it came to, the reality of it. And then I also, I started seeing auras. So I had, and that doesn't happen all the time. Like I don't see them all the time now, but that was happening when I was a teenager. And I saw my mum's aura. She was doing a Qigong presentation in the lounge, a demonstration. And my boyfriend and I were sitting on the couch and suddenly she just burst into all these colors. And I was like, wow, can you see that? Giving him a bit of a nudge. And he was like, no, I can't. What are you talking about? And And then when I was about 17 or 18, I was going out to an event, a dance gig actually. And I had gone to pick up some friends at a bar in a suburb that I don't usually hang out. I've never been. And there was, everyone was having a drink at this bar before we were all leaving to go. And I was driving everybody. So, but I was very interested in a gentleman who was with another gentleman sitting across the side of the bar. And I just really was so drawn to talk to him that it was back in the days when I was smoking cigarettes. And I sort of went and asked him for a lighter, even though I had one in my handbag. And he said to me, "I've been waiting for you to come and talk to me." And I said, oh, right. And he said, "Yeah." And then he proceeded to just tell me a lot of things about myself, about my role on the planet, that I was here to help, with a big role to help in this consciousness shift on the planet and this great transformation that we're all going through and in this evolutionary process. And he just sort of said all of these things. And then he started doing some Reiki. He was a Reiki master, he told me. He was also a master of other things. He started doing some things, making some adjustments in the energy on my back. And then I was sort of in this moment of just absolute elation because he was telling me I had purpose, that I was here for a reason, and it's exactly what I wanted to hear. I always had a feeling of something else in the background of my being, and I wasn't really sure what it was. But I tell you what, I went to that dance gig and I danced all night because I was so excited by what he'd been telling me. And I can't really even reach for those words now. I just remember the magnitude of them and what I felt in my 17 or 18 years old or whatever I was. And then, after that, I proceeded to get a job in New York and in advertising, because my dad was sort of ushering me into the corporate world and creating that path for me and helping me go and do those things. And I fell into the normal life of the corporate, 24/7 you're working in New York, it's a treadmill, that's for sure. And I absolutely loved it. And I had the energy for it in my 20s. And, when I arrived there, it was shortly before 9/11. So I'd only been there a few months and that happened. And I had a really significant spiritual kind of understanding of all of that, very different to what was sort of, I could see how it was based in all of our consciousness, and it was giving us an opportunity to look at things differently and to start to have a different relationship with what was going on around us. And so, the spiritual stuff was still there for me, but it wasn't the focus, put it that way. And so I was sort of running away and doing, workshops on power animals and raw food in the weekends and the corporate advertising career during the day. And so it was, this walking contradiction, a juxtaposition of errors, and of me being a comedy of errors rather, because I was definitely pushing the envelope. I was getting into drugs and alcohol and partying and, at the same time being in the spiritual closet and having this whole other existence and this complete dichotomy that was my life. And, I was very much in the path, but I realized, I wasn't really that happy. I didn't want to go and become, a big leader in this corporate world. That to me wasn't going to fulfill me. And so I left New York and I went to London to try and, what I thought was, find another career, because I thought that was going to solve it. But really it was not really about just the career. It was just about me in general, growing and evolving and getting in touch with my true self and what that was really calling me to do, rather than what my mind was really wanting me to do. And so, the journey continued in London. And I was exploring, on the side of doing my corporate career, I was exploring other things like healing modalities like kinesiology and going to lots of different courses and also doing writing. And that led me actually into writing my book, The Inside Hustle, because I didn't find the answers in anything specific that I was learning from somebody else. And it sent me off on this journey to create my own way of working, create my own modality kind of way in the world, really, in this field. And so it's definitely been a journey. And, I was really mean and doing myself a disservice and beating myself up a lot of the way. I was so awful to myself and just in these really unhealthy and unhelpful patterns in my life, which I came to realize I was causing a lot of my own drama, a lot of my own mishaps, a lot of my own mistakes really coming from my deep unrest within myself, because I was sort of really, really deeply unhappy, basically, and in some toxic patterns within myself.
Would you say in all of this, Joanne, was there like a turning point? Was there like one situation that really shone the light on what direction you needed to take?
I wouldn't say on what direction, but I really had a moment when I was in London where I wasn't my best self. And I laugh at it now, and I tell the story in my book because it's actually hilarious, but also absolutely mortifying that I got myself in that situation. And I realized that, and that was all through, overuse of alcohol and, just not showing up in my best self. And I really realized that I didn't want to be that person anymore. It was such a deep, sort of shameful, awful feeling within myself, as much as I was trying to make fun of it in light of it. And I definitely do that in my book, but also I think you can sort of feel the inner pain that I was going through. But that, I just decided I didn't want to continue doing this, and it really sort of lit a fire under me to sort of really work it out. But I didn't have the answers. It's not like the answers were handed to me on a silver platter at all. I kept sort of doing all the right things that I thought I was, were the right things, and exploring different careers and getting life coaching and doing trainings and different modalities and all this stuff. It still wasn't landing, coming together, to be honest. So I decided, because I didn't know what to do, I thought, you know what, I'm going to just write a book about my adventures and my explorations and my personal journey. And I hope that it will help other people. And I went to, instead of investing in a property, in a flat in London with a little nest egg that my grandfather had left to me when she passed away, I went off to South America for more spiritual adventures to write about, more sort of transformational travel adventures. And that became the Inside Hustle, which is just, yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. It's so interesting that you would use a key to open the door. Yep, that's so perfect.
Because it's about, I really got such a deep understanding that our inner self, our relationship with ourself, is of such great importance with how we experience things in the outside world. There's a lot to do with that. And, when we aren't in right relationship with ourselves, like I was for all those years in New York and London, and I wouldn't trade them for the world because I had some amazing times and just ridiculous stories that I know will also make it into a different book one day. But I think I wasn't really in right relationship with myself then. I was really working through a lot of, trauma from my childhood and issues that I had growing up, issues with myself, and huge amount of self-judgment and criticism and not being good enough, and all those self-worth issues that I think many of us have, no matter where we're at in our life. Sometimes we're always, in a position where sometimes we're really battling ourselves on so many different levels. And I realized in my personal journey how much I was doing myself a disservice, not only by the way I was behaving, but in the way I was treating myself. It had a huge part to play in my internal resonance or my vibrational field, and the experiences I was drawing to me, and the, issues in relationships and all of that stuff. It all started to just make much more sense as to how it all was directly coming from things that were in operation with me. And sometimes that's our subconscious stuff or our unconscious stuff, but also the conscious things that we just have as learned behaviors that we've kind of taken through with however we've come through in this life, and that's based in our family life and our education and even our first employment and all of that stuff,
Absolutely true. I feel that this is a piece of work that children need to be connected with, that if we can help them at a younger age understand that the things that are going to be happening for them are going to shape their life, but they still have that power to be able to make a different choice about, regardless of what happens to you, of making a choice of the story that you create out of that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, those stories are so crucial and important, because I was running a lot of different stories about my life and the family I grew up in and how that had made me be this, and you get into a bit of victim consciousness. I think we just naturally do. We want to blame someone else, and actually, when we actually can pull ourselves out of that, and we can actually just take a step back from any blame or judgment or throwing in the rule book at someone else, we actually can start to take a little bit of responsibility in our own self and think, you know what, that's fine. I can park that, leave that where it is, and I'm going to create something new moving forward for myself, so that I have a bit more empowered living in my own life.
Absolutely. And that's a really powerful insight, and also a challenging one. So as a survivor myself of domestic violence, that to be able to stand up and go, okay, what part do I play in this? Why do I keep attracting the same? And why aren't I changing anything? And getting to that realization, as challenging as it was, to say, hang about, you saying that I've got some level of responsibility for the fact that I'm covered in bruises, and that just doesn't seem right. So but it's very confrontational, and it really does push all of your buttons. Well, it pushed all of mine, and to be able to lean into that, to say, well, if I want a different outcome, what can I personally do different, even if it's the way that I think, or raising my vibration, or any of those things to help me align with a different outcome. So absolutely true. This is great work, and I'm looking forward to reading your book. I'm sorry I haven't read it beforehand. It's been a whirlwind here at Healing Through Love.
Yeah.
What a beautiful journey, and the outcome now is that you are helping other people who have got questions about what they, how to move from where they are to where they want to be, and they want to transition some level of change. Yes, and they might not even know what the change actually is. They just feel that they need a change. They just don't know where to start, and this is looking at change from a different perspective. So could maybe you just chat a little bit about how do you help people implement change with the work that you do?
Yeah, of course. So all of my work is grounded in heart technology. And in 2017, I get a lot of messages in my dreams, and these giant light beings came to me in this dream. And I was sort of saying, but what about this ancient meditation technique? And they said no. And I was like, but what about this healing modality? And they said no. And then they just said to me, it has only ever been about the heart. It only ever is about the heart, and it will only ever be about the heart. Heart technology is all you need. It's the most relevant and effective technique on the planet right now for humanity. And I sort of woke up going, what the hell's heart technology? But I tell you what, now you get to see the Institute of Heart Intelligence does a lot about heart coherence. It's a bigger sort of known thing. But back then, I didn't know anything about it, and it was obviously around, because they've been around for sort of like 30 years, I think. But that grounding in the heart that they were telling me about, I mean, it started to make so much more sense when that research started to come out and they started to be more public about it, and other leaders in personal development were talking about it too. But it really helps to get you out of the mind and access parts of ourself that is our deepest wisdom. The true self is kind of residing in our heart. It was the seat of that's why it's called the seat of the soul, isn't it? And when we can get into the heart, we can start to recalibrate our being in a different kind of way. So all my work is grounded in heart technology to get people connected back to this space, to get people connected back to their true self. And I also work with people to unpick some of these patterns that we have carried through with us through our upbringing, or to get us to where we are now, and realize where some of that can be, rewired in a way, because we're like a big radio signal. We're sending out frequency based on all of our thoughts and beliefs and our emotions and our patterning that is in regard to all of that internal makeup within ourselves. And so when we can start to take a look at that, and it's great when you have someone like me to coach you through that process, who can really see, because when we're in it, we can't see it. It's like the horse with the blinders on. But when you've got someone else reflecting back to you, and understanding the patterns that are causing some problems and causing us to continue getting into the same loop and experience the same thing over and over and over again, when we can start to pull out of that, we can start to rewire those, whether they're beliefs or whether it's sort of an emotional rebalancing that needs to happen, or whether it's an energetic layer on another level. I work on the multidimensional level. So we're working on all layers of the being, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. So, you know, when we have to create a new state of being to become someone new, you know, we can't just keep operating with the same operating system. We need a software upgrade, I guess is the way to put it. So I help with the software upgrade, and for each person it's really individual. And, you know, in my one-to-one programs, I work with people very, you know, with their specific circumstances. In my group programs, I have more of a general way, because obviously a lot of it's very, very similar client to client. And yeah, it's about entraining ourselves into the new, really, and just allowing ourselves to be able to let go all of these old ways of being that just aren't really helpful to us where we're currently at. So yeah, that's a little bit about how I help people shift and change.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a step-by-step process, and obviously some of it, well, not obviously, but I'm assuming some of it's channeled or all of it's channeled. And so you help people. Is this the membership space that you were talking about?
Yeah, so I just kicked off membership this year, and, you know, I think it's really helpful for people to have something to work with, you know, week to week and month to month, because the energy is always changing. We're always responding differently. You know, sometimes we're in a great space within ourselves, and other times we're not feeling good at all, and we're struggling to kind of keep it, you know, going. And having regular tuning in of your own energy and knowing how to make shifts and changes and going through processes throughout the month is really helpful, just to keep us on track. I need to do that for myself, and I love sharing it with other people. So I've created this platform that's really quite inexpensive, and it means that you get to tap into me twice a month. And that's an energetic message that I bring forward for what we're working with for the month. It includes a little bit of homework, includes beautiful energy transmissions, which help to activate us on different levels of our being and help clear energy, or, you know, reprogram us, or whatever needs to happen. And it also includes another sort of cosmic energy we work with once a month as well, depending on where the moon is at, or if we're in an equinox, or all that kind of thing. It just offers us different opportunities to and different energies to work with.
Oh, that sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So you would attract a whole range of people. I suppose the one thing that they've all got in common is that they, both men and women and all different age brackets, but they want to change, but they just don't exactly know how. Is that right?
Exactly. And it takes a lot. Like, you know, I think it's really important. It doesn't happen overnight. It's all of the little changes that add up to big momentous change, you know. And people come out the other side of my 12-week program, for example, feeling like a completely different person. And it lasts as well, which I really love. You know, I get people, you know, over a year later saying to me, I still feel amazing, and what else can I do now to continue and build on that? You know, they're still feeling the value, which is lasting change is really important to me, and the effectiveness of the work. So yeah, I mean, the step-by-step is just really helpful, because you need to be kept accountable. You know, sometimes to our best of our ability, we sort of try to start something new, but it depends on how, you know, how we can really follow up with ourselves and be on point every day. And sometimes you need someone to bounce off, and also just keep you on track gently in a loving way.
Joanna, would you say that one of the key challenges with your clients is that they're not aligned with their purpose? Like, they might not even know what it is, or they might sort of know the direction of it, but they don't know exactly what it is. Would you say purpose alignment is one of the challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really incredibly intrinsically linked to the true self, because many people, and most of us, are operating out of our personality self. But that's not really what's underneath there, hiding deep within. The true self is the authentic self. It's really linked to the bigger purpose of why we're here on the planet, which goes outside of just our daily life. You know, it's bigger than that. And so when we really reconnect and not allow the personality self, or some people call it the ego, to run the show, then we're able to have a different experience. And it helps us to look at life in a different way with a new perspective, and we start to see things through a new lens. So then we start to experience things differently, and we can connect the dots within us. So we understand that our reality on the outside is giving us signals and messages and guidance about how we can alter our internal makeup to sort of, get back in flow and experience more synchronicity, and also experience a lot more grace and love and ease in our life.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Wow, this has been an amazing journey. And I want to stay online and keep talking. But this is the end of our show. I've got so many more questions. How do people get hold of you so that they can have a look at the membership and what's involved in there?
Yeah, sure. You can go to my website at joannawalden.com. You can also find me on social media. Yeah, it's down there scrolling through. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook. It's at I am Joanna Walden. So if you put in Joanna Walden, it usually comes up anyway. But yeah, so just, if you Google me, and anything comes up about the book as well if you pop in the Inside Hustle. So you can have a little look at that. It's an energetically expansive reading experience. So yeah, many ways to tap into my work.
Such a blessing. I'm a follower, an advocate of heart math methods. I think it's just the way to go, and just feels congruent for us to lift the frequency of the planet and to help people through the awakening, which is obviously going to have teething challenges, and yet it's still going to happen. You can go kicking and screaming, it's still happening.
And that's the thing. I think it's about being on board with it, Otherwise, we're dragged kicking and screaming, and that's when life isn't so kind to us. But if we just jump on board with a bit of sort of personal expansion and self-discovery, then we generally just have a better time.
It's so true. I love it. It's a joy. I'm looking forward to catching up with you again, even just for a social conversation. I love the frequency. I love what you bring to the planet. And you're definitely raising the frequency of the planet. Joanne, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll welcome back to the stage. Thanks, Joanne. We'll welcome back to the stage Rose. Hi, Rose. How are you? Gorgeous.
I'm very well, thank you.
Another beautiful show. Oh my gosh, I love every one of them.
She was amazing, wasn't she?
Amazing. She's totally on our vibe. I love it and everything that she brings. And if you've got more questions, please reach out to her and ask. And today we did sort of touch on a couple of things that might have triggered you, and that's okay. Hey, lean into Healing Through Love. We'll have a conversation or reach out to Joanne and she'll help you through the process. And as always, it's just, if we start with the heart, as we do at Healing Through Love, and heal from this space out, it makes all of the difference. And I'm a bit excited for what's happening in our space. We've got more to come. We've got some announcements coming soon. So watch this space. And we've got an amazing guest coming with us next week, which you will enjoy the show. So we'll see you the same time next week. Joy, do you have anything to say before we go?
No, not at the moment. But yeah, I'm waiting to make those announcements very soon. Yes. Probably next week, actually.
Yeah, we've got some announcements. So hold this space. And we look forward to chatting with you guys soon. Bye for now.
Bye.